So there was, starting on page 17 and continuing on page 18 is the long description of man who is bound to his ignorance and helplessness because of that. And so the sense of the freedom of the individual choice is simply not there. Though a man may think he is free, he is not. He is only a pawn, he is only a plaything, he is only a chattel. That is the field of experience that we are given, is like a chessboard in which different forces push us this way and that. Such is the human figure drawn by time. It's not a pretty picture. On the contrary, a conscious frame was here, a self-born force. Savitri was not that. Very clearly, she was not one who has slowly evolved somewhat out of the absolute inertia of matter, but still has so much of its downward pull. That is the human nature. Man is like that, but Savitri has come down consciously, on purpose. She is not part of the evolutionary growth. She has come down by choice. Therefore, a conscious frame. She just put on a form, knowingly, purposely, self-born force. Self-born, not caused by any prior conditions. We are part of a causal chain. She is not. By choice. That is why sometimes the divine being is described as, in India, as self-born. The projection of his consciousness, and he wears or she wears a form. He is not bound by any previous conditions as man is. So this is the contrast. Now, again we go back to the human being. Man is not a conscious frame. Man is part of a gradually emerging consciousness out of ignorance, and therefore, in this enigma of the dusk of God, this slow and strange, uneasy compromise of limiting nature with a limitless soul, where all must move between an ordered chance and an uncaring blind necessity, too high the fire spiritual dare not blaze. This sense of duality that is there is a certain aspiration or you might say need to climb upwards. There is this need that is born because within us there is the original presence of the divine. And yet this divine presence has accepted to be trapped in the darkness, and that is the dusk of God. The inconscience is the dusk of God. Ignorance is the dusk of God, since all is the divine. Even the lowest level is an expression of the divine. And this is the whole enigma. The divine and the undivine, apparently what we call divine and undivine, are part of the universal plan. The same creator, the same original force has made this. So this is the enigma. In this enigma of the dusk of God, where God seems to be darkened, hidden, this slow and strange, uneasy compromise. I suppose all compromises are uneasy for both sides. It doesn't satisfy any give any finer solution. There is no final solution. You have to accept the play of opposite forces and find some kind of a temporary solution if you can. And it's always this is man. On the one hand, man wants to rise, wants to reach up to the heights, he wants consciousness, he wants truth. On the other hand, he does not want it at all. He is attached to his lower nature, he is attached to the darkness. It's a very difficult state. We are part of the lower universe, we are part of the world of inertia, and we find that very comfortable. At the same time, we have the opposite present, the opposite characteristics in us. It's why man suffers so much more. He is aware of his possibilities, he does not live up to them, which is not the case with other beings. The other beings below the human state are not like that. They accept their conditions and they don't try to strive with themselves. The beings above the human, like the gods, are also embodiments of different absolute principles. Man has all the possibilities that the universe has in his nature. He has the lowest and the intermediary stages and the highest all rolled up in one. So which is really our essential self? What really are we? We are part of the lower creation. But the moment you are aware that you are part of the lower creation, you are no longer just part of it, you are aware. That awareness tells you that there is some light in you that makes you aware. And because of that, you can pursue that light, you can grow out of it. That consciousness is there. But that consciousness does not give me the force to come out of the darkness. I'm aware that I am darkened, but I don't have the power to come out of the darkness. And that is why man is always a being who is unhappy with himself. The moment he really wants to look at himself, he has to have a sense of discontent, of unhappiness. He's a very complex, mixed being. It's very uneasy. If I want to remain completely satisfied with myself, then I dwell in my ego and I live on my surface nature and I forget about the rest and I say I'm fine. But the moment I try to really look at myself, I have to say I am not fine. There are things that are there pulling me in different directions at the same time, which is not a very happy state. Man rises and falls, is pulled this way and that. So we are not one person. Mother's solution always is, first of all, become one person. Gather all the different elements of your being, if you can, around your psychic center and become one person. Or even if you want, around your ego, for the time being, you are one person. And that spares you from having this inner war. Otherwise, we always have this inner war which is without escape, which is there in any conscious human existence. If we are conscious, we are aware of all that is unconscious in us, all that is imperfect in us, and we don't know how to come out of it. So, because there is this limiting nature on the one hand, and there is at the same time a soul, which is an expression of the eternal and the divine and the limitless. We are both at the same time. Because I am human, I am really an expression of the divine, of the human that is moving towards the divine, on the one hand. On the other hand, because I am human, I know how many things are coming in the way of my attempt to reach the divine. If I look at myself, at every step there are things that come in the way. So this is my limiting nature, and all that is part of the lower creation is in man. The whole universe is in man. And all that can come, take me out of this bondage to the lower nature is also given to man through it is a very uneasy state where all must move between an ordered chance and an uncaring blind necessity. So we can take up the second line first. Necessity. Necessity is an inherent law. It doesn't select, it is not selective. We do not have to choose to die. It's there. Like a stone that is thrown out, whether it's a stone or a feather, if it's thrown up in the air, it will have to come down eventually. The gravitational pull is there. That is necessity. Something that has to be. It does not make any, there is no preference, there is no selection. It's not that this is for some and that is for the others. It's uncaring, on the one hand. And yet there are some who can move away from the lower nature sometimes with chance that comes. Chance is a moment that comes which one has not understood. Chance is a word I use when I am ignorant of what has gone before and what will follow from this moment. It's just a moment that seems to be isolated in time. But there is no such thing really as chance. But because I don't know, I'm ignorant, I don't know what brought about this moment. It can be a glorious moment. It can be a terrible moment. It can be an experience that can really shake me to the core, but it can lead me forward. But what is the cause? I am not always aware. It's my ignorance. So, on the one hand, because I am not aware of what has been the reason why, for instance, why we are here, what has brought us here, we don't really know. We might find all kinds of explanations which are really on the surface. The real reason we don't know. But there is a reason which I am not aware of, so I say, by chance I read a book or a line from Sri Aurobindo, or I met somebody, so I turned to this place. By chance. That's because we are so limited, we can't see what has gone before, what has prepared us for this moment, and what will follow from this moment. We live only in a narrow frame of time. And so it becomes simply a word we call chance. And yet it is an ordered chance. Everything is part of a plan of which I or the human consciousness is not aware. We live in the moment. We haven't expanded our field of consciousness. We can give any mental explanations, and there are psychologists and thinkers and philosophers who give all kinds of explanations which might satisfy some. But unless one lives the truth, one does not know anything about the truth. One is simply making some noise, words that are really empty. That is one of the big problems of those who give lectures, including myself, I suppose. Because it is really something that is so empty, basically empty of experience. Unless one has the direct experience of the truth, one does not know anything. Knowledge is experience. It's not words. It's not language. It is translated through words, because man has to be given this, there is the mental, you might say, expression. The truth is beyond the mind. So because of this state, something in me wants to know, something in me gives my own, you might say, interpretation. It has a certain significance. You say, yes, this is what made this moment happen. But if I don't know the whole, I never know the part. Anyone who wants to understand one moment in time has to know the whole plan. If we don't, and as usual, usually we don't, we call it chance. It's a term that is later at many places in this poem, he keeps on repeating, there is no such thing as chance. Chance is part of the vocabulary of partial knowledge and ignorance. We have so many words that are really expressions of our ignorance. So this is where we are. We are part of the limiting nature, we have a limitless soul, we have moments that seem to help us break out of our bondage to this lower existence, and yet we are still slaves of the blind necessity that is common to all. Too high, therefore, this is the main clause, too high the fire spiritual dare not blaze. That is what the mind says. The mind does not dare to rise too high. Just as much as you can understand, just what you can verify, just what your range of explanation can grasp, that much is okay. But spirituality is not mental. Spirituality is to live in the spirit, to recognize and live in the consciousness of the spirit. That means I have to break out totally from my bondage to ignorance. It is something that we have to eventually do. Slowly we start. We live more and more in the consciousness of the spirit. But too high, there is the lower creation, there is the lower nature, there is the field of desire, the field of inertia, the field of the subconscious. All of these also have their demands on my being. And so I cannot. If I live in the body, I cannot. That's why rishis would say, give up all these connection with the lower existence and live only in the spirit. That means you reject this outer existence in order to find your inner truth. But if I am part of the world in which I have been sent, this outer existence, it is not just to be rejected. There must be a significance which one cannot always understand. Therefore, we have to make a compromise. A little bit of light, this is what the mind does. A little joy, a little life, a little consciousness, a little truth, a short happiness. Don't expect too much from anything, because you are not part of something infinite. You are finite and you have to accept it. All things on earth are finite. We are trapped in that. If once it met, this it is the spiritual fire. If once it met the intense original flame, an answering touch might shatter all measures made. Because in the human nature there is always a sense of limitation. The limit is the measure. The original flame, the original energy, the original power is infinite. If my inner nature or my aspiration gets in touch with the original flame, even for a moment, without my having perfected and transformed my outer being, I would be completely destroyed. We could not bear it. We have to, that is why in the yoga of Sri Aurobindo, there is emphasis on the integral transformation. It's not simply arriving at a higher level of consciousness or realization only. But if I want to live that truth which I have perhaps perceived, then all the elements in my being, and there are so many that do not like the light, do not want to change, all these elements have to accept to change. That's why it's very slow. Every cell of the body has its, you might say, portion of inconscience. It has its portion of light, it has its portion of darkness. Not only the cell, it's my being, my whole nature, the earth field, everything is a divided existence. So we have to choose. If I belong wholly to the world of darkness, I don't suffer. If I belong wholly to the world of light, there is no such thing as suffering. But man is in between. He's torn both ways. Therefore, the rational or logical solution that mind gives is don't try too much. Do just a little bit. Otherwise, you will break down under the pressure of what you are not yet ready for. If once it met the intense original flame, the original creative force, the universal energy, which is the original flame, an answering touch might shatter all measures made. Get the image of the being would completely break down under the pressure. We have to, it requires an enormous amount of preparation. Long period of perfection and purification that we have to go through before we can say, I can stand face to face with the absolute flame. Only the divine being can do that. Only somebody like Sita can walk through the fire and not be touched. It's a symbol. Absolute purity, free from all the lower forces. You can walk through the fire and not be touched by the fire. Nobody else can. This is the law. So these are the different forces. She was also one of the aspects of the Universal Mother. So is Savitri. All these are embodiments of the force that comes down. This force is free. Though it has come down on the earth, it is free from the lower nature. And therefore, the lower forces cannot touch this being. Too high the fire spiritual dare not blaze. If once it met the intense original flame, an answering touch might shatter all measures made, and earth sink down with the weight of the infinite. The whole universe would collapse because our being is very slow. Earth is not simply the whole universe, it's also our earth. It's us. We are also part, we are the earth also. We are made of, everything that is in the world is in us. And we would be completely shattered. So there has to be a long, long period of preparation. That is the essence of the synthesis of yoga. You read the yoga of self-perfection that is required. Otherwise, a jail is this immense material world. Across each road stands armed the stone-eyed law. At every gate the huge dim sentinel space. That is it. And don't think it's a gaol, it's jail. It's written, this is the old English spelling. This immense material world in which we are trapped. Across each road stands armed a stone-eyed law. Stone-eyed, pitiless, without any preference. The same laws apply to all beings, creatures, whether it's the worm, the plant, or the human being, or even the star. Everything has to accept the law. What is made in the world of matter will eventually be unmade as long as it is in bondage to the world of the essential material law, which is inertia. At the core of matter is inertia. As long as we are slaves of inertia, we have to be finally destroyed. If you can remove that inertia, which is an expression of the inconscience, then you are free, but otherwise we are like a prisoner. He has to know how and not to be bound by the prison in which he finds himself. Sri Aurobindo could do it. We can't. We are bound by the prison. Though we think we are not in prison, we are. The whole universe of ignorance which is inside us, which is around us, is our prison. So across each road stands armed a stone-eyed law. At every gate, the huge dim sentinel space. These are the dim sentinels, the sentinels of darkness, the guards. There is falsehood, there is suffering, there is ignorance. All of these, as long as they are there around us, we are trapped. So there is the whole creation. These are the 4 great asuras that Mother speaks of. They are there at every gate. They pace. They keep us trapped in our smallness. There is falsehood, there is death, there is unconsciousness, and there is suffering. The original principle was Ananda. But when it has come into this world of perversity, it got perverted. Ananda became pain. Life became death. Consciousness became unconsciousness. And truth became falsehood. As long as this is so, we cannot find freedom. They have to revert back to their original state because they also are projections of the divine. These 4 forces also are part of the divine plan. Man is kept bound until he is ready to come out of this bondage.
What's the 4th one again? You said there were 4 powers of darkness, and there's 4 powers of light. They originated from the
4 powers?
You said the 4 powers
Yeah.
were originated from the divine.
Yes, the divine creatrix.
So what were the 4 again? I heard
What was...
truth became falsehood. Life
There was
became
truth,
death.
there was life, there was joy, and there was consciousness.
Oh, joy. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, no,
And
and
they were asked, as if by the Supreme Mother, you enter into the play of manifestation. They are emanations of hers. And they were filled with the sense of their own self-importance. That they were given this huge responsibility. That is to say, the sense of the ego. The moment they realize that they have been given this task and they are very important, that same moment, Mother described it in like a story in the Entretien of 1953, that book, volume. That same moment, truth became falsehood, joy became suffering, life became death, and consciousness became inconscious.
because they didn't know the origin of what was
They got separated.
Because of the separation.
Yeah, they got twisted, like a perversity is a twist. So the direct contact, the direct contact with the source was lost. This is what happens. We have lost that direct contact with the origin. We are trapped in this perversity, this twist, this limitation. If you can untwist,
By concentration on the source.
or by surrender.
or by what?
Surrender.
Yeah, that's
This is-
surrender, emptiness.
Yes.
Surrender
So
to
this is what they have, these forces have surrendered to the divine.
of them have
3, and
surrendered.
one has still not done.
3 have surrendered.
Except
away.
falsehood.
Except.
That's what we got.
Yes,
right
yes.
Exactly.
now. Right. So that means we've advanced much further.
We were,
So if we're
you've advanced
as a
enough to
collective,
realize that you have
person-
not advanced enough.
Yes,
Collectivism.
I'm saying collective.
When you become aware how much you have still to do,
Right.
you've advanced quite a lot.
Right. But it don't
If you
stop
think
there.
I'm fine, I don't need to
No,
change.
But
I'm
maybe
not
the
saying-
collective is ready to take this step. That's why it's.
It is slow. That is the whole work, and that is the reason why a force greater than Earth's has to come down to make this happen.
Right. to remind,
Yeah.
to kindle the fire, so to
Yes.
speak. So if we're stuck with them, they're stuck with us.
They want to be stuck with us.
Yeah.
They enjoy controlling us.
But they don't know that we're boots on the ground for something that.
They just enjoy their power. You see, it's a great pleasure, isn't it, to dominate?
Sure.
They're dominating us.
Right.
And because from the earth something is starting to break out, wanting to come out of them, the pressure is increasing. Just now, you have so much more of all the expressions of churning and chaos. It is perhaps a symptom
Decay.
that
Decay is like something.
something that is
Getting
trying to
rotten
come
in order
out
to
from above, from below in man, and they seem to feel that time is coming to an end.
Yeah.
Like when the beast is cornered, when the beast is cornered, he fights back. He fights back more.
Absolutely.
So
That gives
they are
you-
fighting back.
That's the only good news of seeing. It's like churning the amaranth. With it. Something's going to come up.
So this is the whole problem. A great tribunal of the ignorance. Now he uses the image of something that is almost legitimate. Usually you had 3 judges. Or a great tribunal of the ignorance, an inquisition of the priests of night. In judgment sit on the adventurer soul. That's what we were talking about just now. If the spirit wants to move ahead, the adventurer is the explorer, the one who wants to take up the journey into the unknown, explore the unknown worlds. Naturally, unknown to man today, the world of ignorance wants to pull him down. I want to break out of my prison. Naturally, the guards will pounce on me. That will always happen. So, these are the priests. He's using the image of the Inquisition. The tribunal was, get the image of the Inquisition. In the Catholic religion, there was a time when there was a need for reformation. The Protestant church, as the word itself says, protested against, there were those who protested, found flaws and errors in the very priests who were imposing laws of what was, you might say, taught in the Bible, and they did not live themselves, they did not abide by those laws themselves. In their own personal lives, they broke the laws, but they wanted the laws to be followed by the others. And there was this kind of period of disturbance where the mental man, until then, for a long time, man accepts the, you might say, imposition of religion. That's whatever is written in the holy book, don't question, just accept. As man becomes more intellectual, rational, he questions. The age of reason. With the age of reason comes the age of comparison, of judgment. And that is why, if you study especially the Western history, you have, it's parallel those movements, the Renaissance, which is the age again of intellectual inquiry and development of all the other faculties, and the Reformation, they are parallel, they are simultaneous. They come about at the same time. And because there were those thinkers, some of them were priests themselves. Some of them, the Catholic priest said, if this goes on, then we don't have a hold on man because religion is a power. It controls. If man finds or wants to find his own solution from within and relate or connect with God by himself, he doesn't have to go via the authority of any priest. He can do it by himself. So then the church becomes less powerful. And so, therefore, there was a kind of a contrary reaction, the Inquisition. They were termed heretics, those people, and naturally they were punished. You get the example of Joan of Arc. She was burnt alive because she said, I can hear divine voices. Now, if one can hear divine voices, one doesn't have to ask the priest what the divine wills or doesn't will. I can do it on my own. And this is exactly what happened. When she was really killed, it was not the British, the English so much. It was the church, the cardinals, who had her arrested, and finally she was killed. This means that there is a kind of a resistance in the earth consciousness. These are the powers of night, of darkness. If the individual can, on his own, move towards the light without having to obey certain fixed dogmas, credos that have really lost their essential truth, because the person who is pronouncing those credos himself does not know what he is saying. It was the same in India. There were those who recited the Shastras, but there was the lower period where the priests themselves did not know what they were reciting. Sometimes they held the books upside down. They did not know what they were reading. They didn't know at all, they were ignorant. But people believe that these are priests, these are Brahmins, they know whatever, and we must do what they are saying. This is a dark period that earth has to go through and has gone through, and hopefully will not go through again. Because it is the soul that has to aspire, whether it's the collective soul or the individual soul. Religion has played a part, a very important part. There's a time where if one is completely shut in the rules and codified laws that are there in that book, one cannot go beyond, one cannot go further. So this is the tribunal of the ignorance, and he is going to use this image of the priests. An inquisition of the priests of night. It is as if darkness has the strong authority and power. In judgment sit on the adventurer soul, the soul that wants to really make its journey to the eternal through its own effort, its own aspiration. And it always fails. These laws, these sentinels are always there to stop man. And the dual tables and the karmic gnome restrain the titan in us and the god. Pain with its lash, joy with its silver bribe, guard the wheel's circling immobility. And the dual tables, that is the laws of duality. Earth, heaven, man, God. We are not one. This is against the truth that we are one. The divine is manifested in all. Creation is everywhere an expression of the divine. Yes, there are layers of darkness and dirt that have covered his presence in many places. We can remove that dirt, we can remove the darkness, but the essence is the truth. In matter, in life, in mind, in spirit, it's the same principle of the divine creation. But Our understanding says, no, I am human, I am not divine, I am below, he is above. If I want to find him, I have to give up this world. In me there is weakness, in me there is error, in him there is perfection. How can I be an expression of the divine? It is not possible. And this becomes a kind of a fundamental truth. So all thinkers, guides have said, it is best to give up your attachment to one way of life and follow the other path. If you want the divine, give up this material earthly life. If you want this earthly physical world of pleasure and enjoyment, physical and vital, then you don't really say that you are here to follow the divine life. The life divine is not on earth. Whereas Sri Aurobindo says the life divine is and finally will be manifest on earth. Earth is not cut off from heaven. Man is not cut off from God. Man is, you might say, God in the making. He's slowly moving towards perfection. Very slowly often, because the backward pull remains with us and keeps on dragging at our heels. But it is there. So restrain the titan here. The titan doesn't mean the asura, but often symbolizes that enormous energy. The titan does not really calculate how much force he should spend, and otherwise don't do too much, you'll get tired. He never gets tired. Simply an embodiment of power and energy, endless energy. We can't. We give ourselves to something and then we are exhausted. There is a limit. The titan is without limit as far as his energy is concerned. And the God, the being of light. So neither power nor light do we have in their absoluteness. We have a little bit of both. And we learn to balance, make the best of whatever we have, try to make our life a little better than before. There is a little intelligence, there is a little truth, there is a little joy, there is a little love, there is a little strength, but not the absolute world of light. And so the world goes on as it always has gone on for centuries. It doesn't really change. Change has taken place only on the surface. It hasn't changed. Man's nature has not fundamentally changed. Therefore, it is the circling immobility, the wheel of time, fate keeps on turning, and it's turning in the same absolute groove. It doesn't move forward. Pain with its lash. Don't go too far, you have to face the consequences of what you do. Pain with its lash. Joy with its silver bribe. Pleasure. Pain, and here joy is pleasure. Pain goes along with pleasure. God.
Bride? Bride means silver bride?
Yeah, you have a little pleasure, you want some happiness. You do something nice and you want to be happy for a little while. So you say, today's happiness, tomorrow's happiness, that's nice. That's enough for me. I forget about eternity. I forget about absolute immortality. But let me be happy today and maybe tomorrow. That's all. It's just something that is actually, like most bribes, make you happy for the time being. It makes you forget the absolute, it turns you away from the truth. That is the danger of bribes, turns you away from the real truth. Because for the time being you are happy, satisfied with what you have been given. This is what you say, I am happy today, I'll be happy tomorrow, I've had a satisfying life. Oh, I don't have to think about infinity, eternity, immortality.
Why does it say silver?
Silver? Well, silver, why not?
Because it's not gold, it's just.
Yes, maybe it's bribe is money often. I suppose it has also to do with something to do with some kind of gain. You get some gain, you get some satisfaction. Life is not only pain, there is also satisfaction.
Little joy.
There is pleasure, there is satisfaction of desire. That is what the problem is. Your desires are satisfied for now, you're fine. But basically, the wheel turns in the same spot. It gives us an illusion of movement, but we are not going anywhere. We haven't changed. A bond is put on the high climbing mind, a seal on the too large, wide open heart. Death stays, the journeying discoverer life. A bond is put on the high climbing mind. Mind can't. What is really the role of mind? It's an instrument of knowledge, it's an instrument of truth. And yet, mind lacks one thing. First of all, it doesn't have experience. It cannot. And then it divides light from darkness, truth from error, your point of view versus my point of view. To rise beyond division, to rise beyond duality, to enter into another world, you have to go beyond the mind. As long as I am trapped in the mind, and man is a mental being, he sees something from this standpoint, I see it from another standpoint. He is convinced he is right, I am convinced I am right, and we can go on forever arguing. That's why debates can go on forever. So, mind is an instrument of knowledge, but it has no direct contact with the truth. Intuition has, the body has, the vital has, but mind has not. It only processes whatever information is given by the rest and gives an explanation and interpretation, but it does not know what is the truth. Certitude is what mind wants. Finally, what is true? And the mind wants to know that, and in the end it says, I cannot tell you finally what is true, this is my viewpoint. And somebody will say, well, my viewpoint is different. So the high climbing, the higher you climb, the more you realize you cannot know. And yet mind wants to know. And that is the tragedy. A seal on the too large, wide open heart. If your heart is too big and generous and wide open to the universe and to all, you have been given the pain of all, the suffering of all, the ungratefulness of all. And so you say, why do you really have so much love for everybody? Everybody's suffering becomes your suffering. So just stay within your limits. Don't ask for too much. Don't dare too much. You will never feel. We want happiness. Happiness is the thing that man always wants, and he never finds it. Death stays. Stays, checks, stops. A stay is a check. So life is a journey. Death is that which drags us back. So we go forward, we go back. We rise, we fall. We live, we die. This is the world of duality. Thus is the throne of the inconscient safe. There is some consciousness, there is the downward pull of inconscience. It doesn't go. While the tardy coilings of the eons pass, tardy, slow, time passes, but the inconscience stays, the ignorance remains, the failures remain in this world of manifestation. If you want light and truth and joy, you give up this world of manifestation. Enter into the transcendent. Become one with the Brahman. Become one with the Nirvana. Yes. That is the solution sages have given. Because this lower creation and its darkness is too difficult to destroy. And the animal browses in the sacred fence, and the gold hawk can cross the skies no more. Now, the animal is a symbol, but I don't think it is the animal as a beast, but it is the embodied soul, anima, which is a soul. But this soul has put on a body, and it lives within the fence of your inner nature. It's not allowed to, it doesn't find the freedom to come out. The soul stays within and does not come out into the open. So our outer life remains dark, weak, ignorant. The divine essence, the spirit, is there, but it stays within. It remains peacefully, quietly browsing, and it has nothing to do with your computers, but it's there inside and at peace with itself. Or the gold hawk. Hawk is a bird of power. It hunts, it goes straight to its prey, which is like a direct force of intuition. Light goes straight to its target, but not if man is just a mental being. If we decide we are only mental beings, then we lose these faculties which are there within us. They stay within us, they don't have the opportunity, they are not given the chance to emerge. And that is why you don't cross the sky. The sky is the symbol of the mind. The mind does not allow the flash of intuition, does not believe the vision of the rishi, wants explanations, wants all kinds of interpretations. The direct vision, which goes, the target of the vision is the truth. And so it's the gold hawk. Gold is the symbol of the truth. Goes straight to the truth. That is the age of mysticism, which is replaced by the age of reason. Okay? But one stood up and lit the limitless flame. That's the difference. Again, one line to say somebody had come who is not going to accept the limits where the flame does not dare to burn too high the fire spiritual dare not blaze. Well, it will dare, it does dare, it did dare. In her. That's the difference. Okay.